The 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season follows up the best season ever, with the abyss of the unknown. Sunday's Daytona 500 marks the points-paying debut of the Next Generation car, one built different from the modified showroom cars that made up the circuit in the 1960s and 1970s. Although the method of purchasing these vehicles remains the same, teams will put up the Ben Franklins to buy spec chassis from NASCAR to compete in a Cup Series unlike anything we've ever seen. This means we are in for a crazy 2022 NASCAR Cup Series regular season, and the predictions, boy oh boy, they will be as full tank as ever. Whose house? Trek House. Following part 1 of Mr. Worldwide's plan for NASCAR domination via the Chip Ganassi Racing acquisition, the Watermelon Man Ross Chastain gets to drive car number 1. There is a lot of good vibes around this group, led by Phil Surgeon, that exceeded my expectations throughout the entirety of 2021. Chastain is a top candidate this season, not just to win his first race, but also make his first postseason for he and Trackhouse Racing. With that, I would not be surprised if there's a watermelon genocide this year with just the talent this guy possesses. Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, and now Austin Cindric are the wheelmen to race the iconic Penske number 2 in NASCAR's Premier Series. Cindric is already a NASCAR champion, keep that in mind, with his Xfinity Series title in 2020. This was part of a 4-year development process that saw him go from crushing everything in sight to 13 career wins in NASCAR's Saturday show. A lot of people are already having him as a breakout rookie sensation for 2022. Now, I have some mixed opinions on that. Austin Cindric, you gotta remember, he struggled to adapt to Xfinity, and he may have those same growing pains in Cup. Then again, he is a master on road courses, and Team Penske is likely going to be the dominant team with their experience in spec cars, not just in IndyCar, but with the V8 supercars. And with that, I think those two things are going to be the assets for Cindric in his 2022 rookie season and might help him make the playoffs. With a career best average finish of 14th, 2021 was statistically one of Austin Dillon's better years in the NASCAR Cup Series. A lot of people forget that, especially Michael McDowell and Eric Almirola. Richard Childress could have blown everything up again after missing the postseason, but instead, Justin Alexander and team number 3 are back. Now the question is, can this team continue to fish out strong results and take care of unfinished business in the Bass Pro Car? And with RCR's role in developing the next generation car, that answer might not just be yes, but yes with an exclamation mark. Kevin Harvick enters year 22 of his historic NASCAR Cup Series career, coming off his worst season since 2009. Back when the RCR team was a living nightmare and even Happy Harvick was not happy. 2021 is best remembered for his alter ego that should have stayed in the motorhome. Then again, the Kevin Harvick fan base has grown to a brand new audience, a new demographic unreached before the playoffs. Just take a look at this.
Hi guys.
Show me your best towel.
Okay.
So from that aspect, it might make sense for Kevin Harvick to become more of a Karen this year. However, in all seriousness, I do not think that is his primary goal, as his career is winding down and it is probable that he will be commentating races for Fox as early as 2024. Therefore, he, the 4 team, and Rodney Childers will be looking to prove 2021 was a fluke and to at least win a race and return to the championship. Maybe even dominate with better Robert Yates engines and a, hopefully, disastrous season from SHR. What more is there to say about Kyle Larson? Seriously, it's clear he can drive a race car and do it well, no matter if it's a midget or a bulky stock car. Speed Racer was nothing short of record-setting in his historic 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. Now he and Cliff Daniels will look to run it back and will look to do what teammate Chase Elliott could not achieve last season, and that is win back-to-back championships for the first time since Jimmy Johnson. That guy obviously had a very good career with the same car Kyle Larson is driving right now. So the question is, do I think Kyle Larson is going to put up 2021 numbers? And I have to say no. Not at all, given that the championship defense years in the 2010s and 2020s don't produce the calculator crushing numbers 2 years in a row. Then again, Kyle Larson flew in the face of my preseason expectations to go from canceled to champion last year. Be brave enough to suck at something new. It was that thinking that made Brad Keselowski opt out of his competitive Penske ride and hop into Roush Fenway equipment. These are cars that haven't been championship caliber since Osama bin Laden was gunned down by the Navy SEALs. And the clash showed that the new Roush Fenway Keselowski team is still in the trenches, joining only the Spire Motorsports team without an entry in the Busch Clash A main. Still, this is Brad Keselowski. I do not want you to forget that. This is someone who's grinded his entire career to get where he is. Even last year, you gotta remember, he took that 2 team that was as lame as roast duck and nearly made it back to the championship race. This move makes a lot of sense for Brad Keselowski and who he is. And if he gets the right people in the right place, he will make the playoffs without question. Stacking pennies is just what Corey LaJoie did with the Spire Motorsports team in 2021, earning a career-best average finish of 24.9 and finishing inside the top 30 in the drivers' point standings for the 3rd season in a row. So could Corey LaJoie start stacking nickels in 2022? Brian Sparks returns to crew chief LaJoie for the 3rd consecutive season, and this is the moment Spire Motorsports has been waiting for. They've been waiting for this next generation car, and now with a tighter technical alliance with Hendrick Motorsports, there's the potential for a top 25 points finish, and there's a good opportunity for Corey LaJoie to really make his name here in 2022. NASCAR's legitimate driver, Tyler Reddick, completes the Richard Childress Racing Cup program in car number 8. A driver that qualified for his first NASCAR postseason and was starting to come into his own in the last few weeks of the 2021 season. And I expect that performance to be amplified even more with 670 horsepower at these intermediate tracks. Tyler Reddick is going to love going to these places like Homestead this year, and it's almost inevitable that he will not only win his first race this year, but break out completely. If not, we're going to have to get Stephen A. Smith on Race Hub when Tyler Reddick's struggling, considering his new primary sponsor for this season, 3Chi.
Stay off the weed!
Chase Elliott's championship defense last year was a disappointment. I'm not afraid to say it. Yes, he made it back to Phoenix, but for the entirety of 2021, he played a sad second fiddle to teammate Kyle Larson, winning just 2 races compared to Speed Racer's 10. Sure, he was screwed over so many times, but at the end of the day, wins are wins. It was 10-2. The good news for the 9 team relies with the Alan Gustafson Almanac. In the 2010s, when the Hendrick team not led by AG wins the championship, it means that the Alan Gustafson-led team carries the torch for Hendrick the next season. Jeff Gordon led the team in wins in both 2011 and 2014, as well as Chase Elliott having the most top 10s of the group in 2017. Do not forget that. Although the next generation might hurt that almanac a bit, as there's a debate as to whether Hendrick will continue their dominance. Regardless, Chase Elliott is on the same level as Kyle Larson this season, and he's expected to at least be a co-leader of the team in his contract year. If this is another season that is a wimpy second fiddle to Kyle Larson, I'm going to say it, this will be an absolute failure of a season. We've had to say goodbye to so many fan favorites over the years. After the 2022 season, we will say goodbye to Eric Almirola, stepping away to spend time with his 2 children blossoming into their preteen years. With the millions he's earned driving a race car professionally, Eric Almirola has chosen to settle down when the sun sets in Phoenix this November. So can the Bacon King go out on top? While Stewart-Haas Racing was an absolute disaster, his 10 team gets a massive improvement at crew chief with Drew Blickensderfer. I can honestly imagine these 2 doing well, especially with the unknown of the next generation car. Perhaps with a veteran driver and a veteran crew chief, they can solidly point their way in where others with less experienced drivers and crew chiefs falter. Do not sleep on this duo. I have first-hand sources that confirm that at a Circle K near Phoenix Raceway the week of the championship, Denny Hamlin was in line looking to buy a Coca-Cola. Little did he know, Kyle Larson was there as well, and before he decided to check out, he handed Denny a Doritos bag as a gift to him. The flavor? Nacho Year. Denny Hamlin enters the 2022 season still searching for his first NASCAR championship, regular season, and overall. Now, with the talents of the 11 team led by Chris Gabehart, can you really see a decline in performance? Hamlin at some point this season will win some races and contend for the championship. Can he win it though? The only logical answer here is no, and it will remain that way until it's proven outside of NASCAR ignition. Debate the 3 wins all you want, but the silver lining for Ryan Blaney last year was his performance in the 2021 playoffs, methodically piling up the points necessary to make it to the championship race before Austin Dillon put the entire fan base into a trauma only cured by ice cream and euphoria. Ryan Blaney enters year 7, and like I've said the last few years, he needs to step it up. YRB is a good driver. I'm not saying he's a terrible driver, and I do not hate this guy whatsoever. But is he on the level of Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott? And that is not even close. I'd even argue guys like Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell are much better than Ryan Blaney, or at least have a higher career ceiling than what I've seen from YRB. Also considering that he hasn't won a race under the high horsepower low downforce package since 2018. It is indeed time to step up, especially with Brad Keselowski no longer being the co-guy alongside Joey Logano at the top. Chase Briscoe's disaster of a campaign left us all in a state of shock, myself included. The lack of performance from Stewart-Haas Racing caused Briscoe to make a ton of rookie mistakes, ruining races at Dover, Indianapolis, and Texas 2 to name a few. Year 2 fortunately promises stability on the competitive frontier, so we should see more of Prospect Briscoe that can wheel it whether it's dirt or Xfinity. But look to achieve that success with new sponsor Mahindra Tractors, a livery that looks all too familiar to the 2011 Office Depot paint job that went on to do some fantastic things. The Lone Star State's own Chris Buescher is looking to become the biggest driver to come out of Texas since the Labonte brothers. His championship crew chief in Xfinity, Scott Graves, will lead his 17 Roush Fenway Keselowski team for the 2022 season. That's not the only champion he'll be able to lean on, with his new owner and teammate Brad Keselowski joining the dance. 2022 will be a big year in Chris Buescher's development, and if he succeeds, he'll ride the wave of success like the saddle at Texas Roadhouse. No NASCAR driver except for Brennan Brown was the talk of the town this offseason like rowdy Kyle Busch. He passed sensitivity class. He made his debut in Nitro Rallycross and learned that this would be his last year with loyal sponsor M&M's. This is driver number 18's 18th year in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's a two-time Cup champion with over 50 career wins in the top echelon of motorsport. Even with that portfolio, the younger Busch and his 18 guys have a lot to prove. KFB even said it himself, he's uncertain of his future at Joe Gibbs Racing after 2023. The good news is for Kyle Busch, however, horsepower is back at these intermediate tracks. This package fits his wheelhouse and the opportunity is there for the taking to return to his 2015 to 2019 prime. Should he step it up, in the process he will find a sponsor that fits his character and will keep him competitive for years to come. When I hear the quote, "If you expect disappointment, you will never be disappointed," I cannot help but think of Martin Truex Jr. fans. The stretch of 2 wins in 10 years helped build mental toughness in this fan base to prevent them from going insane when MTJ finished second at Phoenix, clinching his 3rd runner-up points finish in the past 4 years. The 19 team will hope to reward them with Martin Truex Jr. back as the driver and James Small, who has an IQ of 1,000 for sitting out of the last chance qualifier, returning as crew chief. Now you can't deny the big brain of James Small, but something tells me this team is going to struggle. I'm a bit worried about this 19 team. They did not look good in the Clash, and Martin Truex Jr. is typically a late bloomer as you just look at his Cup Series career. To be honest, I expect this team to struggle, but I think by the end of the regular season they will be up to at least a semi-competitive level. The 180 in performance specialist last year, Christopher Bell, hopes to have a chrome 2022 season. And I'm not just talking about the number, folks. The Oklahoma native is one of those dirt guys that can wheel it out and squeeze every last bit of horsepower out of the equipment he's given. Albeit he is racing for Joe Gibbs Racing, a car like the Next Generation car fits into his wheelhouse. And add in 2-time championship crew chief Adam Stevens to the fray, year number 3 could be the one where Seabell drills past the ice and breaks out, performing as hot as a Rheem water heater in year 2. Harrison Burton, once on the career trajectory as Bell, is steered away from the TRD pipeline towards the famed number 21 for the Wood brothers. As much as I don't think Burton is ready for Cup just yet, his patient style of racing is an asset he can use well in an aggressive NASCAR Cup Series field. Think about it, in a race like Daytona or Talladega, he sits there and remains patient, all the guys wreck in front of him, he gets a top 5, top 10 finish most likely. Now, do I think he makes the playoffs? No, I do not. Even if Team Penske becomes the dominant team of 2022, I still expect this team to be slightly off. However, I would not be surprised if this 21 team in particular makes a massive step up in performance without the Penske Xfinity program. Joey Logano opened his 22 in 22 campaign with his exhibition victory at the LA Coliseum. Now, people have said that this win was a fluke, especially after his disappointing season last year, but I have to disagree strongly with that claim. The 22 team strength is the low downforce high horsepower tracks. It was last season and they did fairly well compared to their performance at the 550 tracks. Plus, Team Penske has had success with spec cars before. Just look at their performance in IndyCar and V8 supercars. I will go out and say it. Joey Logano, Paul Wolfe, and the 22 team are the team to beat in 2022. This is a veteran team led by a driver nearing his prime as a NASCAR driver. I expect next level things from Sliced Bread, especially since he doesn't have to share the spotlight at Team Penske with Brad Keselowski. So Bubba Wallace, you guys know, is the driver NASCAR wants to make into the next superstar, and in 2022, it is time to step up. Sure, driver 23 won at Talladega last year to become only the second African-American driver in NASCAR history to win at the Cup level. But after that, let's be honest, Bubba Wallace didn't do anything after that racing-wise to warrant the added media attention he's gotten. In year 2 with 2311 Racing, he'll have Booty Barker as crew chief, and he'll also have a new teammate we'll get to later. Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team, coupled with the next generation car, does not leave many excuses to run 20th. It does not. And that means 2022 will be the year that determines how good Bubba Wallace really is. I'm still in shock that William Byron only won one race last year. Rudy Fugle and the 24 team showed flashes of the Rainbow Warrior spirit, but a lot of bad luck, and Kyle Larson kept them from wielding that power like Jeff Gordon did before. This is a race team that is heading in the right direction. As this is year 5 of Byron in the NASCAR Cup Series, he should have more experience, and with that, the expectation is more wins. Even more so with a next generation car that might help him close the gap between Elliott and Larson. I'm expecting some big things, maybe not what we've seen from Jeff Gordon in the past, but at least on par with team number 5 and team number 9. Justin Haley may be making his first run at the NASCAR Cup Series full time. But at the clash with Colleague Racing, before Kyle Larson decided to pull a Tony Stewart 2006, he looked like a seasoned veteran. Maybe it's because veteran Trent Owens was there to guide him and really helped get the maximum performance out of a young Justin Haley. Or maybe it's the fact that this guy is not only underrated, but Colleague has a good grip on this next generation car. Remember, as a part-time team last year, they did win a cup race, their first in fact with AJ Allmendinger. I see no reason why car number 31 can't do that in a full-time effort, and maybe the clash was a teaser of just that type of performance. Michael McDowell returns to the Front Row Motorsports team after a dream 2021 season, and there was a lot to love from this guy in 2021. Not just winning the Daytona 500, but also making the postseason and putting up career-high numbers. With Front Row Motorsports rising as an organization, it's hard not to love what this team is putting together. Though the 34 team did lose Drew Blickensderfer. Taking his place will be Blake Harris, who was a part of the Championship 78 team in 2017. This is a worthy successor to Blickensderfer, who might be a bit of a downgrade, but not a liability to a team gaining traction in the NASCAR garage. 15 years after his dad, David Gilliland climbed into the Robert Yates Racing 38 for his rookie season. Son Todd Gilliland begins his NASCAR career in the Front Row Motorsports 38. How cool is that? The third generation driver has shown signs of promise, but that potential has been countered with some awful luck. Losing many NASCAR Truck Series races in heartbreaking fashion, only rivaled by the first 52 years of St. Louis Blues hockey. As long as he doesn't have to run that Speedco livery, I expect the NASCAR Cup Series to better suit his driving style than the chaotic nature of trucks, and therefore I think Todd Gilliland will do okay in year number 1. When you take a look at Cole Custer's sophomore season, it was comparable to getting a gigantic scoop of Superman ice cream, then walking the boardwalks of Florida about to take a lick into that flavorful scoop, before the cone underneath it crumbles and you watch in horror as all that joy melts away. This 41 team watched helplessly as the entire organization crumbled into a disaster. Now Cole Custer and Mike Shiplett, they hope to have a better cone this time around in year 3, which I believe they will unless NASCAR's crackdown on Ford sets the entire manufacturer backwards. If Ty Dillon decided to create a racing video game similar to Jimmy Johnson's Everything with an Engine, it would be rated E for everyone based on his performance in his last chance qualifier race. Some might say this is a bit of inexperience after not being full-time in Cup for over a year. But honestly, I think it's a bit of hunger from Ty Dillon. For far too long, the younger Dillon brother has been in Austin's footsteps, doing average and mediocre rides and disappointing in top-tier opportunities like his stint with JGR Xfinity last year. With Petty GMS and the next generation car, Dillon sees that opportunity to reintroduce himself and drive the wheels off of car number 42. Or maybe before the race he had one too many Black Rifle coffees. That could be an honest possibility. The newly formed Petty GMS team doesn't just have the coffee to keep them alert. Focus Factor steps in to sponsor Eric Jones for 26 races this season, meaning the Petty 43 is in its best position financially to start a season since Smithfield opted out of a handshake deal. This right here is a perfect storm for the iconic 43. You have a new team structure, a brand new car that will erase most of the competitive disadvantages gained over the past 40 years, and a driver in Eric Jones that has the temperament of an old school racer, kind of like Richard Petty back in the day. This is also a driver, keep in mind, that won a Truck Series championship and the Southern 500. It honestly would not surprise me if that Clash performance wasn't a fluke, but rather a race to precursor a Martin Truex Jr. 2015 type season from that Jones boy. What Kurt Busch proved last year was not only that he's been energized by Monster Energy sponsorship over the years, but also he's secretly been sipping that fine wine, extending his win streak to 8 years and his playoff streak to 9. This is a level of smoothness that is needed for a 2311 racing team looking to bridge the gap between the mothership Joe Gibbs Racing and development franchise driver Bubba Wallace, meaning that the elder Busch brother will drive a second entry for the organization, car number 45, to recognize Michael Jordan's other basketball number with the Bulls. He will also reunite with his crew chief at Stewart-Haas Racing, Billy Scott. Kurt Busch this season is a driver to watch for a Swiss Army knife of reasons, not only to see how he does with this new team, but just how good the 2311 racing team really is at this point. This is a big measuring stick when you get a champion like Kurt Busch. Newly engaged Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will have more rings to chase in his third year with JTG Doherty Racing. The Daytona 500 is honestly a winnable race for this 47 team when you've got raw superspeedway talent in a guy like Stenhouse, memes aside. That is one area I expect the Kroger driver and team to succeed in with a NASCAR performance reset like we're going to see with the next generation car. Honestly, the future for this team is as blank as the Kroger shelves with rumors that the team may cash out. If there is a moment for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to rise, that moment is now. Alex Bowman might just be the Jekyll Hyde of NASCAR. One week he's getting his chassis handed to him by his teammates, running 10th to 15th in winning equipment. Then the next week he and Greg Eyes will take a potion that allows them to pull a win out of their tailpipe, completely out of left field. From that angle, it makes perfect sense as to why a team that finished 14th in points also won 4 races. Now with a clean slate judging by the white Ally livery, Bowman needs to cut out the two-faced performance if he has any ambitions of ever becoming a championship contender in 2022. You do not see Larson, Elliott, or Bowman with that inconsistency. And car number 48 needs to be an ally with the front this year, or Bowman will falter in many ways unimaginable. The Rick Ware Racing team will now focus more on a quality product, with driver Cody Ware driving the flagship Nurtec 51. Now, you might think the Nurtec sponsorship will come in handy once again with this group, but I beg to differ. You have to remember back to the Clash. Ware himself was competitive in his last chance qualifier, and Ryan Preece won his race to make the main event. Rick Ware Racing will not be a playoff contender. They will, however, make a few competitive strides with their cars and not be the ticking time bomb of cautions they were in 2021. It is crazy to see how much the career trajectory of Daniel Suarez has changed so much in the past 5 years. Year 6 is no exception. He remains in car number 99 with Pitbull and Justin Marks. This is a ride, however, that will inherit the performance and resources from playoff organization Chip Ganassi Racing. This is undoubtedly his greatest opportunity since replacing Carl Edwards back in 2016. That is not a question, that is not a debate. Though he doesn't have the Lamonis bonus, CommScope and Tootsies will help fund the Travis Mack-led project, one with the end goal of crossing off the 2 checkmarks still eluding Daniel Suarez, and that is winning a race and making the playoffs. The 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Tour already made a splash in big money Los Angeles the week before the Super Bowl after moving the Clash out of Daytona to the LA Coliseum. That's one of 2 changes involving California, as the second is the Auto Club Speedway returning to the schedule for potentially the last race on the old layout, replacing the Daytona road course configuration. It's safe to say Daytona fans officially know how us St. Louis Rams fans felt back in 2016. However, the most anticipated new race of the season takes place 5 minutes east of where the 2022 Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams used to play. The Worldwide Technology Raceway, otherwise known as Gateway, hosts its first NASCAR Cup Series race ever on June 5th, and with a capacity of 78,000 people, which should be the largest sporting event in St. Louis since the Rams left, I dearly hope we make this an anti-Stan Kroenke event in some way, shape, or form. Meanwhile, other changes to the regular season include COTA in March, the Bristol Dirt Race moving to prime time on Easter Sunday, and the second Richmond race taking place in August, replacing Homestead Miami. It's a season like none other, so for 2022, I'm not just making predictions for the NASCAR Cup Series regular season, but full tank predictions for this new era of stock car racing. I'm telling you guys, I know I've made some crazy predictions, but this right here is going to be playoff grid anarchy. So get your popcorn, get your Skittles, get your Dr. Pepper. This is going to be a heck of a playoff grid. And you guys are going to be surprised, maybe even traumatized about who I have making it and who I have out. So there's 16 drivers that make it in, and first of course is the regular season championship, which I think is going to be driver number 22. It's going to be 22 in 2022 when Joey Logano takes home his first regular season championship. Also winning 4 races, here we go, full tank prediction number 1, Christopher Bell. Yes, Christopher Bell is going to lead the Joe Gibbs Racing team in Toyota next season. Christopher Bell can wheel anything, and honestly, I think this is the year where he truly emerges, and he is going to, in fact, win more races than his other 3 teammates combined. That is a bold prediction, and I think Christopher Bell, C-Bell, has the opportunity to do so. It does not stop there, because full tank prediction number 2, Tyler Reddick. Yes, Tyler Reddick is going to win the most races for Chevrolet. Richard Childress Racing, you gotta remember, they helped design this next generation car, and I see this 8 team breaking out to win 3 races. Meanwhile, I have Ryan Blaney winning 3 races this season. That's hard to believe from the so-called YRB hater. He is going to get 3 victories this season by sweeping Atlanta and winning one of the Talladega or Daytona races because YRB. Next up, I've got a trio of Hendrick Motorsports drivers, as honestly, I think HMS is going to struggle a bit with the spec cars, but I still have Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron all winning 2 races each. Kyle Busch, I honestly wanted to give him more wins, but I think Christopher Bell is going to tear up the circuit so much that he's going to be a second fiddle at Joe Gibbs Racing. He's still going to win a race, he's still going to be top 10 in points, but I think he's going to be an 8th seed, unfortunately. Stewart-Haas Racing, meanwhile, will get 1 win in the regular season, and no, it's not Kevin Harvick. It will be Chase Briscoe at the Indianapolis Road Course. As for the next guy I have winning 4 races, this is a major full tank prediction right here, but Eric Jones. Yes, I kid you not, Eric Jones is going to win a race in the regular season and make the playoffs. I honestly think with Dave Ellens coming into this team, Eric Jones being an underrated driver, and this Petty GMS team not having financial worries, this 43 car is going to have a fantastic season, Martin Truex Jr. 2015-esque, and make the 2022 postseason. Kurt Busch, meanwhile, for 2311 Racing is going to make it with his annual win. And how about another full tank prediction? Brad Keselowski. Yes, he looked horrible in the Clash, but I predict in his first race with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, he is going to win. And how about another one? Austin Cindric, driving Brad Keselowski's old car, is going to win a road course race and make the playoffs. I think, like Brad Keselowski, he's going to have growing pains, but with that win, he is going to be in. That leaves 3 drivers to make it in on points, and I think Austin Dillon will be the first driver, as with Richard Childress Racing having an edge with the next generation car, I think he is going to be safely in the postseason this time around. Denny Hamlin will also consistently make it in. I do not think he's going to win a race, but the thing about Denny Hamlin is he's a veteran, he knows when to push it, and I think his consistency will help him make it in as a 15th seed. And finally, this guy is a grinder. He's going to have a bit of a challenge with the next generation car, but as the 16th seed for the 2nd year in a row, I've got Kevin Harvick. So with this crazy playoff grid anarchy, that means we've got a couple big names outside the cut line, and that leads to my last 2 full tank predictions. Number 1, Martin Truex Jr. Yes, the 2017 champion is going to miss the playoffs. I think this team is going to have a horrible start. They will get so behind that even the genius of James Small and Martin Truex Jr. will not be able to help them get into the postseason, as I think he'll be 13th in points. but that's going to be far from the 3 drivers that point in: Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick. And then the last one, Alex Bowman, also misses the playoffs. Honestly, I think his Jekyll Hyde performance gets exposed this year, with Hendrick Motorsports taking a step back. Don't get me wrong, Alex Bowman is a decent driver, but I just do not know if this 48 team can go out there and win races. And with the inconsistency, I think this 48 team is going to have a rough season. They are going to be about 15th to 20th in the final point standings. So there it is, the full tank 2022 NASCAR Cup Series playoff grid. It is something unlike anything we've ever seen, just like this 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. This next generation season is something that nobody can completely comprehend, and it's going to be a thrill ride over the next 26 weeks. So anyways, this is Nathan for NRF Productions signing out, and just remember, guys and gals, life's a beach and then you drive.